All right. Happy Friday, everybody. Um, we're continuing on talking about Python, and today we'll look at working with files, and also this is kind of unrelated, but also useful is understanding f strings or the format operator in Python as far as formatting our text output and whatnot. Okay, so as always, do your git pull upstream main. That should uh, get you the files. There's a few files associated with today's lecture, just because we're going to be kind of importing and not importing, but I guess yeah, creating stuff, pickling things. Okay. All right. So pretty much so far, all of the code we've been running has been what we say transient, in that you run stuff in VS Code, Python, Jupyter, and then they run for your session, and then after you're done, if you start a new session or everything, basically all of those objects, all of those values in memory, they disappear. Okay, every time you start a new session. And so if you want to kind of preserve those things so that you can use them later, or if you want to be able to kind of pass them along and send them to someone else so they can kind of open and pick up where you leave off, then you want things to be persistent. Okay, and so we'll take a look at that. Okay, so we can you can open a file using this operation called open. Okay, and when you call open, there's a few different options as far as the way it's going to interact with the file. All right, and so here I'm going to create. I'm going to open a connection. Okay, to a file called output.txt, and I'm going to open it in write mode. All right, and what this will do is that if there is a file called output.txt, it will open it, but it's going to write on top of it. And if there is no file right now, then it will just create one. Okay, and so when I run this, so let's connect. Okay, so now we have a connection to this, I guess this what we call it, text input output wrapper. All right, but basically we have a connection there. Okay. Other options as far as like opening a file, the default is actually read mode. So instead of a W, it'll be R, and that's used so you can kind of open a file and read the contents of it. But anyway, here I'm going to create a string, line 1. This is the first line of text, and then I'm going to call .write. So to this connection, this file output connection that I've created, I'm going to call .write, and what this will do is it will write the line here, and fout.write actually returns a value to you. It's going to be the number of characters that were written. Okay, if you call it again, it's going to kind of add it to the second line of the file. While this is running, I don't. Let me see if I'm allowed to even open it. Okay, so right now there's nothing. Like if I go to my file system and I try to open output.txt, there's nothing there. Okay, and that's because this is, I think we call it, it's in the buffer, right? So as we're doing fout.write, okay, Python is keeping these lines in the buffer, and then when I close the connection, then Python writes the stuff in the buffer to the actual file. Right? So now that I call fout.close, okay, now I can open up the file right here, and it contains the contents that I've written. Okay, if that makes sense. So when we open the connection, it kind of Python creates a connection to the file, stores stuff to the I guess the output buffer, and then when you close it, it will write things up. Okay. And so it says closing up the file frees up the system resources dedicated to tracking that file. If you forget to close the file and Python sees no object names bound to the file object, then Python has its own kind of what we call garbage collector, and that will automatically close the connection. All right. So there's so this was open, write line, close the connection. Okay. We generally recommend using this operator called with, and basically the with will open a connection, and then and automatically close the connection. So if you say with, and then you do open, what it's going to do is it's going to do whatever stuff you have when it's indented, and then when the indentation ends, the with operator understands, okay, we're closing the connection to this file. Okay, so here we're opening the connection, we're calling this connection file, or whatever you want to call it, but here we're calling it file, so then I can interact with it as file.write. And so here this will do the exact same thing. Just for fun, I can do like file.write line 1. Okay, or maybe, let's see, line 1 plus again. All right, so I'll run that. So that does this. It runs the code, and then so now if I open up output, it writes, this is the first line of text, second line of text, this is the first line of text again. but again, the first line of text, it ends with a new line character, right? So if I display the hidden characters there. Okay, another way so the default is when you call open, it defaults to read mode, but we have this, and this will kind of read to this. So open .txt_r as file. So what this will do is when it reads the lines, basically each line is going to be it's treated as kind of an iterable. Okay, and again, it's lazy, so it's not going to load up the entire, like if you got like a billion lines, okay, it's not going to load up all billion lines all at once. It's going to just kind of go through it line by line. But here we're going to say iterate through each line, print this out. Okay, did that not run? All right, and so there it goes. So it's just reading through each line in the thing, and it's printing it out. And this is the contents of my file. Let me see. I think we also have. Let me just look up Python open. What are the? These are some of the other modes that you can have. So you have read mode, you have write mode. So write mode creates a new file, and then you have you also have append. Okay, and what append will do is it will open up what is there, and then it will add new lines of text to the bottom of the line, and then let's see, exclusive creation mode. So this is basically write will create a new thing if it doesn't exist, and if it already exists, it's going to just overwrite it. Okay, and if you want to kind of have some safety so that doesn't happen, you can use X, and this is going to give an error if it says, oh, this file already exists, right? So you have that. And then, yeah, binary. So if you want to output something in binary mode, like an image or some other kind of like data file, then you have that. And then text mode, I think it's always in text, but I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I guess this is, yeah, now that you just use, now that Google's kind of AI enhanced, you just, when you type this, you get kind of an AI thing. But then you can always kind of look at the Python documentation and then read up on some of the different things here. Yeah, so you can kind of, yeah. So I think by default, it defaults to text mode, but you can, so when you do R, like for reading, it's going to be, it's the same as calling RT, which will be read in text mode, okay? And then plus is going to be, I guess, for updating the file. But anyway, so this is kind of how you can kind of read text files and output text files if you want to kind of deal with that directly. Later on, when we start working with, say, CSV files to kind of get your data in, we'll use CSV specific functions. Like in pandas, we have read CSV. Yeah, there's polars, ways to kind of import data, right? So, but this is a little bit different from, like, so we have data specific reading and writing things, but this is just kind of like if you want to read and write, just text output or something, which is still also a useful thing. Yeah, question.
That's a little
Read CSV? Yeah, I mean, that it's just kind of a generic name that, yeah. So basically, read CSV is to read in a CSV file. So CSV file is just kind of the generic, and I would say the de facto default method of storing data these days. And so R has a function to read in CSV files, and then Python, pandas is kind of the probably the most popular data handling package right now, and so it has a read CSV function as well. But I'll also introduce Polars. Polars is gaining in popularity. It's probably more popular for like really big data files and stuff. And there's several packages. Python does not have native support for like data frames. So R has native data frame support, and Python actually does not. But we extend Python by loading up packages, much like in R, you load up the tidyverse to kind of get a bunch of stuff that's nicer, and we do stuff like that with Python as well. Okay, so we also have the format operator. Okay, whenever you use write, as far as like writing a line, okay, to the text file, the argument of write has to be a string. All right, and so if you want to kind of convert something that's not a string into a string, you just wrap it in str, okay? So you can take things like numbers. Here I have x is 42.3, and if I want to kind of make a string out of it and say 42.3 is my favorite number, I can't just take the number and do a plus with a string, because Python's going to complain and say, hey, over here I've got a number. You're asking me to do a plus, so I'm expecting another number, so I can add two numbers together. But then you're giving me a string and says, okay, this is unsupported, doing a plus between a float and a string. All right. So, but you can kind of force convert from the number to string. Basically, you're just wrapping 42.3 in quotes. And then Python says, okay, you got a string over there and you got a string over here. I can join those two together. Okay, and so now we have a string. 42.3 is my favorite number, and then with this string I can do write to our file, whatever this string is. Okay. This method of kind of just taking the variable and then turning it into a string and then doing plus and then whatever else you want to do, it works, but it's a little bit cumbersome. Okay, and so Python supports placeholders, and we use curly braces for placeholders within a text string. Okay, so we have these curly brace. Replacement fields is the name, and then and these replacement fields, you can specify how you want your text to be formatted. Okay, so for example, so a common thing would be I want to take, the result of a calculation, and I want to round it off to 2 decimal places, and I want to put that rounded off number into my string. Okay, and so how the text is formatted is specified in what we call the format specification mini language. This is one of those things where the documentation is a useful reference, but this is also where an AI tool really kind of shines as far as handling some kind of like tedious stuff. You can say, hey, what is the format specification I need in order to, print a number with this many decimal places. Okay, you say the keywords here, so that the AI tool knows what you're talking about. You say using the Python format specification mini language. Okay, tell me what is it that I need to do. Okay, because there's a bunch of like little working pieces here and there, and that will go there. Okay, so anyway, this is how it works. So this is we have. So in Python, there's strings with the dot format operator, and then we also have something called the f string, which is pretty much the same thing, but it's like shorthand. Okay, it's like a shorthand way. So here I have a string, okay, and I have curly brace as a placeholder. I got blank placeholder is my favorite number. Okay, a replacement field is my favorite number. Dot. And then, so this is the string, and then I'm using the dot notation, which is going to call string methods, okay? And the method is format. So there, I pass in the argument x. X is currently the value 12.34, and so what format x is going to do is it's going to take that number 12.34, turn it into a string, and throw it into the replacement field. Okay, and so when we call print y, I get 12.34 is my favorite number. Okay, you can do the equivalent thing, okay, without calling dot format, and you do f and then quotes. Okay, so this is called an f string because it's f immediately followed by a string. Don't put a space. I think it'll break. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this will break. So you need to do f immediately followed by a quotation mark, and then we have the replacement field, and then inside the replacement field you put in the name of the object that you want to go in. Okay, so there's just a small change. Okay, and so my string here, I call this the yf string. This is going to be 12.34 is my favorite number. Right, so these are basically 2 ways of doing the exact same thing. The format is useful if you kind of have like a template with like you want to use positional arguments, like this goes in the 0 position, this goes in position 1, index position 1, index position 2, and then the f string is useful for kind of just a quick like if you're not going to be reusing the template over and over and over again. Okay. So here, if you want to have, you can have multiple replacement fields, and then dot format is going to insert them positionally. Okay. So here I've got x is 12.34, x2 is 37.8. So this is totally stupid, but I wrote, blank is my favorite number and blank is my second favorite number, and then I do dot format, and dot format, allows for variable length arguments because it uses the star args, right? It gathers together them into a tuple, and then it basically scatters the contents of the tuple across the replacement fields. And so x1 is going to go into the first replacement field, and x2 will go into the second replacement field. Okay, so it does it positionally. And if you do it like this, okay, so here there's two things going on here. If you have a string that's multiple lines, then you can open and close it with triple quotes. Okay, so triple quote marks will tell Python my string goes across multiple lines. And then here we're doing index position 1 and index position 0. And so here my dot format operator, I've got an x and an x2. X is going to be index position 0, and x2 is going to be index position 1. And so now I'm referring to my replacement fields by index position. So what this is going to say, x2 is 37.8. So when I print this one out, anytime it sees the index position 1, it's going to replace it with 37.8. Anytime it sees index position 0, it'll be 12.34. So it'll be 37.8 is my favorite number. 12.34 is my second favorite number. Again, my favorite number is in its index position 1, 37.8. Okay, so we have that. So this is pretty much the same thing as an F string, but you'll notice here there's no kind of positional arguments as far as the F string goes. You just have to put in the name of whatever you're going to put in there. So here I'm putting curly brace x, curly brace x2, curly brace x, okay? Well, this is kind of cool. I didn't realize. So I'm in VS Code, if you hover over it, it'll tell you like, oh, x2 is literal 567. That's kind of neat. Okay, so anyway, you get that. So here I have x is 321, x2 is 567, and we have that. Okay. All right. Sometimes you want to format. You have like a number with a whole bunch of decimal places, and then when you write it down into a string, you want to format in a certain way. You want to like round it off and things like that, okay? And so with this, okay, here the curly brace still, the first part is the index position, so this is going to be index position 0, and then the format comes after the colon, okay? So here I have colon G, so G stands for general format, okay? But you have a whole bunch of, again, in the Python format mini, whatever language we call this, okay? Format specification mini language, you have all of these different kind of operators here, okay? So here I've intentionally written out these bizarre numbers, okay? 0.00012345678 and then I've got 0.000012345678 okay? And so here I'm saying the number in index position 0, which is currently x, and then here's the number in index position 1 is x2, okay? G is going to be a general format. The default in general format is 6 significant figures, okay? And then if you want to have more than that, okay, you can do something like .8g. .8g will be 8 significant figures, okay? And so here you can see as far as 6 significant figures go, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's really 6, 7, 8, 9, but that 6 gets rounded up to 7 here, right? And then the zeros don't count as significant figures. So this is what we have. Okay, with 8, it kind of auto formats this into scientific notation. So it's 1.234567, and then it's technically 8, 9, but that 8 gets rounded up to a 9. And then because of the whatever scientific notation, it says e minus 0.5, so times 10 to the minus 5 is there. Okay, you can do, again, you can use the formatting operators as well in an F string. Here, you're not going to provide it a positional argument. You're going to give it the name of the object. So in this case, we want to put an X, and then :G is the how it should be formatted. And then we have X2 is going to be, we have :8G for 8 significant figures, and it's going to output the same thing, okay? So whether you use dot format or an F string, you can get the same kind of output, okay? We have different format operators, okay? :F is fixed point format, okay? So fixed point format doesn't look at significant figures, but it says just this many places after the decimal, okay? So the zeros count in fixed point format. So with :F, it's going to round off to 6 places. So I think it's going to be 0, 0, 0, 1, 2, 3. I'm pretty sure. And then here I've got :8F. So it's going to round off to 8 places after the decimal. So 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then after the 4 is a 5. So that's going to get rounded up to a 5. Okay, so I get 0.00, 1, 2, 3, 6 places. And then here I get 0.0000, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. What do we call it? Fixed point format. Okay, so fixed point format. I don't know. That's like money, right? So when you get your change from the grocery store, they always round off to 2 places after the decimal, to the nearest cent, and that's going to be fixed place format. Okay, but fixed place format doesn't work for like really cheap items. Like how much is a piece of paper? Okay, if you round off to the nearest penny, it's not gonna. That's not enough precision, right? So you probably want floating point for that. Okay. Again, you can kind of force. This is building blocks with Legos. You just kind of do plus this and plus that. This is not the recommended way. Okay. Definitely, we recommend F strings and format over trying to kind of kludge things together using the plus operator. This is useful like in a pinch if you're just kind of writing something quickly. But in general, just think a little bit and do use placeholders. Okay. All right. What happens if you don't put anything in front? This is okay. So here, there's nothing in front of the colon. So it's similar to back here where I had basically nothing inside the placeholder. Okay, so nothing inside the placeholder. It's just going to go positionally. Okay, but so we have nothing in front of the colon, so it's going to place these things positionally. But the part after the colon says, how do we want this formatted? Okay, so here my name is :S is going to be as a string, and :G is general. And so this is going to kind of take Joe Bruin and 183. I actually have no idea. How old is Joe Bruin? Has he been around since the founding of the school, 1919? Or, I don't know, is he 106 years old? Or as a mascot, did he come up later? All right, somebody look this up and let me know how old Joe Bruin, the mascot, is. Okay. And then, what do we have?
That says 1963.
1963. But how old was he in 1963? He had to be 18? I don't know. How old is Joe Bruin?
I think it says he adopted the name in 63, but...
He adopted the name in 63.
Like his origins go further than that.
Is there a lore?
It said he was born in
1924. 1924? Oh, okay. He's like 100 years old then. Maybe he just turned 101. Maybe his birthday's tomorrow. Do we ever figure out the mystery of Josie Bruin? Is that his...
Tell me we became Redskins Live Bears mascots.
Live Bears?
It says on Wikipedia.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we don't do that anymore. All right. Oh, okay. All right. So here, this I just copied straight from the Python documentation. Here, okay. So positional 0, 1, 2. It's gonna go. A goes into index 0, so on and so forth. Okay. So that's gonna be ABC. You put nothing in there, and then it goes positionally. If you can put in the numbers, and it will go position. Index position 2, 1, 0. So this will what be CBA. Okay. And effectively, what dot format does is because it allows for variable length arguments that get gathered together in a tuple, you can also do kind of the opposite here, right? You could have a string and you can explode it, okay? Or scatter it, sorry. You can scatter it using the star operator. So this will take the string and do ABC and scatter them, okay? And similarly, oops, I don't want to have the breakpoint set. Okay, you can also take some other somebody else could create a tuple, right? Somewhere along the way, you could create a tuple of apple, banana. What's my C fruit? Citrus. That's not really a fruit, but okay, right? And so here I have the tuple, and then I'm gonna scatter the tuple. Okay, if you don't use the star, then it gets upset. Okay, so if you have things already gathered together into a tuple or a list, it could just as well be a list. Okay, and that works just as fine. Okay. Oh, now I'm curious. What would happen if I give it a dictionary? I don't think you can scatter it. Maybe it'll just do the keys? Yeah, it doesn't like it. Okay. Did I do star star? No. All right. Oh, well, maybe. Hold on. Okay. No. This was my bad. Okay. I think it'll just do the keys. Yeah. Okay. So if you give it this, it'll do the keys. If I do star star, yeah, no, can't do that. Okay, so yeah, I guess you can just do the keys of a dictionary as well. But anyway, here it is, back as a tuple. Oh, I've forgotten about my job. As far as giving you view quiz answers. It's week 3, Friday. What happened? Okay, I'll give you your first two. First two are E and B. E and B. E as in elephant, B as in bear. Okay, this is the same. So I got abra and cad, and that becomes abracadabra. All right. You can also, so here with this, you can provide you can use keywords. So this is kind of like key and value, right? I got latitude equals 37, longitude equals -115. And here my string is latitude and longitude here. Okay, and so we have that, and you can here I can also create it as a dictionary. I've got dictionary latitude is this and longitude is this. Okay, and then you can do dot format star star, and this will unpack and then take the value associated with latitude and put it into the latitude and the value associated with longitude and put it into the longitude there. Okay. All right, other formatting operators, you have less than, right, greater than, and caret, but these, you're supposed to look at them as if they're little arrows, and this will be left align, right align, and center. And what this will do is it will make the placeholder 30 characters wide, and it will place the text in there left aligned, okay? And so you can see that the length of the string is 30 characters long. This will make it 30 characters wide and make it right aligned. And then this is 30 characters wide and we'll make it centered, okay? And then, you know, if you have the wrong number, you know, one side will have one extra space, and I think it's going to be the left-hand side will have the extra space. All right, so here is, we're going to take UCLA and we're going to make 3 columns, each 12 characters wide, and then this one will have UCLA left aligned, centered, and right aligned. Okay, and there you go. Okay, and you can do this as a F string as well. All right, and so this is just a list of common F strings. So if you want money sign with 2 decimal places, we have that. If you want percentages with 1 place after the decimal, you have that. You have, if you want 0 padding, okay, so here I've got 42, and I want to kind of make sure the whole thing is 5 characters wide. You can do that, which is helpful for things like time, okay? So if you want to report time and it's like 1 minute or something, you often have to do like 01. So this is basically 2 decimal places, and I've got hour, minute, second, and I don't know what do you call the AM, PM part of the, is there a thing? I called it D, but I don't know what it's called, okay? And so this will format it as such. And then if you wanted to kind of create so here I've got kind of like a dictionary. This is actually a list of tuples, okay? But however you want to do it, okay, you can unpack it as such. And you can create like a text formatted thing. All right. Ooh, let's go on. All right. You also have a few things where you can work with files in your system, okay? And so we import OS. Now, a lot of times, and this is VS Code or other things, they will flag it, okay? It will flag and say, like, hey, this Python script is making a call to OS. And like, are you okay with that? Because OS is basically, you're giving it access to the files. And so the Python script can go in and start deleting files off of your computer. And so you don't want to do this with just some random, like, random message board, right? So there's like people who are, you know, miserable souls, and like they go on, you know, they would go on places like I don't know, homework help places, and then someone would be like, hey, can I do this? And they'd say, oh yeah, here's the script, and it makes a call to OS and starts deleting stuff off of their computer. And it's like, yeah, don't just run random strangers code. Okay, so but anyway, so I think VS Code will flag things. I don't know if when you opened this, it was like, hey, do you trust this? Maybe you said I do. Maybe it's because you imported it into your Git. It's already like trusted and stuff. But anyway, here you can kind of like find your current working directory. This is where I store my stuff. Obviously on yours, it's going to be different. Okay. You can also find the path of an object. So I have the object output.txt, and this is the absolute path versus most of the time it's relative path. Relative path is just assuming we're in our current working directory, and then if we're assuming we're in our current working directory, I can just refer to the file as output.txt. But the absolute path is, you know, kind of from its thing. Okay, you can check to see if a file exists. and that's going to be os.path.exists. That will give you a true false. Memo.txt does not. Output.txt does exist. Okay, you can check if something is a directory. Output.txt is not a directory, it's a file. Okay, is there a file folder called a directory called .git? Yes, if this is a GitHub directory, GitHub repository, there will be something there. You can also list out the contents of your current working directory. Okay, and so here it's just a list of all of the files in here. And apparently I have so much stuff. We have that. Okay. We have if you try to open something that doesn't exist, you'll get an error. It'll say no such file found. And so we have basically this block. It's kind of like an if-else, except it's called try except. Okay, and try will say, hey, I want you to try this, and if it results in an error, then run this other code. Okay, so you can say, try to open bad file. Because this produced an error, rather than just completely stopping your code, the try except will say, all right, well, that didn't work, so we'll run the except block. Okay. Okay, there's another data structure called the DBM. Okay, this is they're called a Python database, but generally when I think of the word database, I think of like SQL and something a lot more kind of complicated. But DBM is kind of just like a very, very simple file format that allows you to store Python objects. Okay, and it's like it kind of behaves like a dictionary. Okay, so we're going to create a DBM file called captions. Okay, and the interaction mode is going to be C, and this is going to create. And if it already exists, it's going to overwrite it. Okay, and so this is going to open up a connection to a DBM file. So it's different from a text file, but it's going to be a DBM file. And then you add things to the DBM as if you're adding keys and values to a dictionary, right? So here, this is just one string and another string. But it's kind of like we're labeling our maybe documents or something, okay? So it's just, this is the key, this is the value, okay? And then later on, if you want to access this, you can make a call to it, just like a dictionary, to get what was the value associated with that key, right? So here's just another one, and we're just adding another thing. And then we can kind of iterate through, just kind of like this. Oh, sorry, there's already, we haven't added the list here. This comes later, all right? And this looks confusing, all right? And then, close the connection when you're done, okay? And so, just like the file, the write file, you can also do a with, okay? And so this is gonna add a few files to your directory. We got captions.dat and then .dar and .back, okay? All right, now, if you try to store Python objects that aren't strings to the dictionary, okay, this is gonna cause problems, okay? So here I've got a list. The list contains the values 1, 2, and 3. And if I try to store this into the DBM, okay, it says values must be bytes or strings. Okay, Python doesn't like that I'm trying to store a list into the DBM. So what we have to do is we have to turn this list containing 1, 2, 3 into a string that can be written. All right, so we have to kind of translate from one data structure into a string. Okay, and so this is called dump s. Okay, dump s comes from this method is called pickling. All right, so pickling is kind of like the idea like you want to store food for later, so that you can, I don't know, you want to store your cucumbers, you pickle them and then you can get them later. All right, but anyway, so we're going to take the list, we're going to convert it into a string that can be stored into our database. All right, and so this is going to be dump s, and so we call pickle.dump_s t. And what this I forgot, import pickle. Okay. All right, and so this, if I say what is s now, s is the string representation of the list. So this list that was 1, 2, 3, this is how it gets represented as a string, and this is a byte mode. Okay. Or no, strings, I don't know, whatever. Okay, so now that it's a string, I can write it to the DBM, the captions DBM. Okay, so here I can do db list equals s. That doesn't produce an error. Now I've closed this. Okay, all right. Now I want to retrieve stuff. Okay, I want to retrieve stuff. So if I've closed the connection. Now I'm going to open up back the connection to captions. Okay, and here I say, hey, retrieve what the object or the value associated with list. Okay, so I'm retrieving it. It gives me back this string that I can't read, but but I want to be able to turn it back into a Python list that I understand. So the reverse of dump s is load s. Okay, so we have pickle, we have dump, and we have load. Okay, and because we're working in string format, it's going to be dump s and load s. Okay, so we got pickle.loads db list, which is this string, and then Python translates that back into the list containing 1, 2, 3. Okay, so there's kind of like the original list. We have to convert it into a string so that it can be handled in the thing, and then we have to I don't know, take it back. It's kind of like, I don't know, if you wanted to send food in the mail or something. I don't know if this will even work, right? But it's like you buy some food, you put it in like a dehydrator, it sucks out all the moisture. Okay, you put it in the mail, and then the person receives this dehydrated thing. Okay, and then they have to rehydrate it. I don't know if that even works, but to kind of get back the original thing. I don't know. Is that how
Fast food ramen.
Huh? Ramen. No, I don't. Well, is that how it works? I don't know. But basically,
I mean, they fry the noodles to make it.
Yeah, they fry the noodles. Yeah, I guess it's like canning the food. It's like pickling your food. Okay, but anyway, so here, if you want a whole bunch, okay, you can also do things directly to a pickle, and this one is not intended for. So the dump s is like it turns it into a string, so you can write it into the DBM. Here you can just go directly into a pickle object. So here I've got three things. I've got a list, another list, and a string, and then you can create a pickle file. Okay, so this is not a DBM file, but it's a pickle file, and then here you got dump. Okay, so you got pickle.dump, and then you got pickle.load. And again, because we're not working with strings, it's just dump and load, not dump s and load s. Right, and so you can kind of store this objects.pickle file, and then now you can retrieve it, and then you have these files there. Okay, and here's some additional information about pickles. Okay, let's see. Last view quiz answer is A. A as an apple. A as an apple. Okay, that's it. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.